In the land of Egypt, long ago, the Israelites were not free. They were slaves, living under the cruel hand of Pharaoh. Life was harsh. Every day, they were forced to build cities and work hard under the burning sun. The sound of whips and cries filled the air. Yet even in such dark times, God was working behind the scenes. A little girl was born during this time. Her name was Miriam. She was the firstborn in her family, followed by her younger brother Aaron. Years later, another baby was born into their home, a baby boy, beautiful and healthy. But there was a problem. Pharaoh had just given a terrifying order. Every Hebrew baby boy must be thrown into the Nile River. Pharaoh feared the Israelites were growing too strong, and this was his way to control them. Miriam's mother, Jochebed, did her best to hide the baby boy for 3 whole months. But babies cry. Babies move. It became harder and harder to keep him a secret. So Jochebed made a bold, painful decision. She placed her baby in a basket made of papyrus, sealed with tar and pitch, and gently laid him in the reeds by the edge of the Nile. And while the baby floated there, who was watching? Miriam. She stood nearby, hiding among the reeds, keeping her eyes on the basket. She was still just a young girl, but already brave and smart. She didn't panic. She didn't run home. She stayed close, waiting and watching to see what would happen. Then something unexpected happened. Pharaoh's daughter came down to the river to bathe. She spotted the basket, sent her servant to get it, and opened it. Inside, she found a baby, and he was crying. Her heart was moved with compassion. She said, "This must be one of the Hebrew babies." Just then, Miriam stepped forward. She wasn't scared. She spoke boldly. "Shall I go and find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you?" Pharaoh's daughter agreed, and Miriam ran to get her mother. The very mother who had placed the baby in the basket was now asked to nurse and care for him, with Pharaoh's blessing. The baby would grow up to be Moses, the one God would later use to deliver the Israelites from slavery. And it all started with a young girl who watched and waited with courage. Miriam might have seemed small and unimportant, but God used her at just the right time. She was more than a sister. She was part of God's plan. Years passed. Moses grew up in the palace, raised as a prince. Aaron became a leader among the Israelites. And Miriam continued her life, growing in wisdom and purpose. She didn't disappear into the background. She had a calling of her own. When the time came for Moses to lead the people out of Egypt, God used signs and wonders. Plagues came upon Egypt, and Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go. But as they reached the Red Sea, Pharaoh changed his mind and chased after them with his army. The people were trapped, the sea in front of them and soldiers behind. But God made a way. He told Moses to raise his staff, and the waters parted. The Israelites walked through on dry ground. Then, as Pharaoh's army followed, the waters crashed back down and swallowed them. It was a moment of victory. The people were free. And this is where Miriam stepped forward again. She picked up a tambourine. With joy and passion, she began to sing. Her voice rang out with praise to God. She led the women in dance and celebration, singing, "Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea." Miriam wasn't just celebrating. She was leading worship. She was a prophetess, a woman through whom God spoke. She had seen sorrow, but now she danced in joy. She had watched over a basket in fear, and now she lifted her voice in freedom. People followed her. They listened to her. She helped lead an entire nation in worship, but even strong people stumble. Later, after the journey in the wilderness had begun, something happened that would change Miriam's story. One day, she and her brother Aaron began to speak against Moses. The Bible tells us that Moses had married a woman from Cush, likely from Africa, and Miriam didn't like it. But deeper than that, she seemed to struggle with jealousy. They said, "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Hasn't he also spoken through us?" At first glance, it might seem like a small complaint, but their words revealed something dangerous: pride. They were questioning Moses' leadership, and in doing so, they were questioning God's choice. God heard their words, and he wasn't pleased. He called the three siblings, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, to come to the tent of meeting. There, God came down in a pillar of cloud. He defended Moses, saying, "With him I speak face to face. Why then were you not afraid to speak against him?" When the cloud lifted, something shocking had happened. Miriam's skin had turned white with leprosy. It was sudden and severe. Aaron turned to Moses and begged for mercy. Moses cried out to God, saying, "Please, God, heal her." God said Miriam must be shut outside the camp for 7 days. During that time, the entire community waited. No one moved forward until she returned. It was a painful moment, but also a necessary one. Miriam had to face the consequence of pride. Yet even in her discipline, she was not abandoned. Her people waited. Her brothers prayed. God showed both justice and mercy. Miriam returned, and the journey continued. Later, as the people of Israel wandered through the wilderness, years passed. Many of the older generation died before reaching the Promised Land. Among them was Miriam. Her death is recorded simply: Miriam died and was buried. No long speech, no dramatic scene, but her life had already spoken volumes. The prophet Micah, much later in Israel's history, looked back and reminded the people, "I sent Moses to lead you, also Aaron and Miriam." That one line tells us everything. She wasn't just a supporting character. She was a leader, a prophetess, a worshiper, a sister who stood strong when needed, who praised God boldly, and who also received correction when she stepped out of line. Her story, though simple, is filled with depth. From Miriam, we learn that age doesn't limit purpose. Even as a child, she helped change the course of history. She was in the right place, with the right words, at the right time. We also see the power of worship, how one woman's praise could lead a nation in joyful celebration. Her voice echoed across the desert, reminding the people of God's power and faithfulness. But we also learn about pride. Miriam's downfall came not from a great sin in the eyes of men, but from a hidden attitude of the heart: jealousy, comparison, criticism. Yet God, even in his judgment, offered restoration. Miriam was not cast out forever. She was brought back. He gave her a second chance. Her story teaches us that God uses women as much as men, that leadership can come in many forms, and that no one is beyond correction or redemption. Miriam's life is a mirror. In her courage, we see how God can use us in the small moments. In her worship, we see the power of lifting our voices to heaven. In her failure, we are warned to guard our hearts. And in her restoration, we are reminded of grace. She watched over a basket and protected a baby who would grow into a deliverer. She picked up a tambourine and led the nation in worship. She stumbled in pride, but was given mercy. Her journey is our journey too. We all have moments of boldness and fear, of singing and silence, of rising and falling. Miriam's story assures us that even when we stumble, God still sees us, still speaks to us, and still gives us a place in his plan. And so, the name Miriam continues to live on, not just as a sister of Moses, but as a woman of courage, a voice of praise, and a heart made whole by the grace of God. Her story is not long. It doesn't fill many chapters, but it fills the heart. And it reminds us all that we have a part to play in God's greater story. Let us be watchers like Miriam, alert and brave. Let us be worshipers like Miriam, bold and joyful. And let us walk humbly, even when we are gifted, remembering that God's grace is bigger than our greatest mistake. Miriam's life matters, and so does yours. If you've been blessed by this video, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs it. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out when we upload a new video. Let's spread the message together. Your support means everything. God bless you. Shalom.